I'm not sure how the world is going to look like. And I don't have a crystal ball. And I don't know if the traditional academia and the certifications that we have and colleges are the answer.
Hello everyone and welcome to the About Us podcast. Today we have a special guest, Malak Sedra. He's an engineer by trade, a serial entrepreneur, an athlete, an artist, and a comedian, but above all, he's a husband, father, mentor, and youth servant. If you ask many of the people who deal with him, they'll tell you that he's a modern-day Renaissance man. Malak Sedra is the founder of a learning management systems, eSky Solutions, and a marketing, consulting, and video production company, eSky Productions, among other business ventures. He holds an executive MBA from the John Molson School of Business, as well as a project management professional certification. He is also a member of the Orders of Engineers of Quebec and was peer-nominated as one of Canada's top 20 under 40 in aviation and aerospace by Wings and Helicopters magazine. That's not all. As a fierce competitor in all aspects of his life, even in sports, Malak participated in 3 championships, ranking 9 in the world twice as a 100-meter sprinter, as well as winning dual silver medals at a Quebec level. In addition to these accomplishments, Malak is an artistic person. As I mentioned earlier, the multi-passionate businessman owns a video production company, and he also loves to act, to do improv, write, and to paint. In other words, we can say he's the Egyptian Elon Musk. I had the honor and privilege to interview Malak, to learn from his experience and to get an insight of his wisdom. Without further ado, here's Malak Sedra in his own words.
Hello, Malak. How are you?
Life is beautiful. Thank God. How are things with you?
Thank you. Thank you for being here today, for accepting to be a guest on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
I actually had the idea to interview when I saw you at the convention. And I really liked your answers. And I wanted to have more of like the behind the scenes of, Malak. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's honestly a pleasure, and I look forward to it.
So we want to have an introduction of Malak. Who are you? Where you come from? What have you studied? Your hobbies, interests? Like, who's Malak?
So we've got like a good 4 or 5 hours.
Why not?
So in short, Malak is a person that has many passions. Since I was young, I've known, I like the artistic side. I love the engineering side. I like to serve. I want to leave a dent in the world the day I'm gone. So everything I do with this regards, I want to serve the Lord in everything I do. But I'm a mechanical engineer, thermal fluids and propulsion. I'm an aerospace engineer by trade. I've in control systems my entire life. Worked in large Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies. I've started my own. I work in an engineering service firm. I've done mechanical design, electrical design, and software design. So that's from a career point of view. I've been serving with the church, and I used to serve youth and still serve youth and enjoy serving. And I love arts in general. Performing arts is a field that I adore. So everything from, we spoke about that, stand-up comedy, improv to acting, theater, and short film.
But for me, what's really interesting is that, like, you love the sciences as much as the arts, right? Like you...
Absolutely.
And we're used to having people being in like one category or like choosing one thing as a passion or career in life. But what made you be drawn in both sides? Like what were, I don't know, your inspirations or background like
before my father became a priest, my father was a thermal fluids and propulsion engineer as well. My aunt is an engineer and my uncle's an engineer.
Okay.
My uncle was an inventor. He made me love designing since I was young. I did the first electrical motor I did when I was 4 years old.
Okay, wow.
So big thanks to my uncle for that. My mom's an artist. She is a painter. She taught fine arts at school. She had a TV show that taught women how to create and recreate using recycled material from the house to decorate their house. It was running when we were living in Qatar. So I picked up the artistic side from my mom, who pushed us really hard in the arts, and the engineering side from my dad and my uncle.
So you lived in Egypt, Qatar, and...
I lived in Egypt up until I was 6. We went to Qatar for 3.5 years. And then I came to Montreal with my parents at the age of 9.5.
Okay. Oh, okay. So a nice...
Yeah.
Okay. So now, like, when it came time to choose, like, your career, like, let's have the journey from, I don't know, like, CEGEP University. How did that go? Like, how did you make your choice between engineer or arts? Or
it was honestly, it was an iterative process. It wasn't as straightforward as people think. But since I was very young, I always wanted to be like my uncle. He would take us and, do experiments with us and stuff. So as long as I can remember, I wanted to be an engineer. It was always a dream of mine. I like to create. I like to invent in general. So not just engineering analysis, but actually the creator side of engineering. And then as I started growing and got introduced to the arts, I fell in love with the performing arts. So it was a constant struggle of which career up until the last second. I actually was going to apply and go into performing arts and become an actor.
But it's nice that you pointed out that in engineering there was also that creating or creator aspect, and that's the same aspect that you find in arts too. So like there's a strong link, between both professions.
I mean, I find if you look back at the Renaissance era, people like Leonardo da Vinci, were both engineers, mathematician, and artist.
True.
I think the combination of all three is what creates beauty. There's beauty in engineering. There's beauty in nature. There's beauty in arts. If you're able to be observant and get inspired from everything around you, you can recreate and create wonderful things. Humans have come up with, from the pharaohs.
Yeah, that's true.
Up until today, if you look at everything around us, the progress we've made is spectacular.
And the collaboration between both worlds have never stopped. Like it's always been there. Like yeah. So
I mean, I enjoy music. I wish I was better at music, but I definitely enjoy the symphony and rich music that's put together. I think anything done to a professional level to the extreme can be very beautiful.
True, I agree. Yeah. Do you play any instruments, or like you've never tried? Or
I have the exact same 5 songs that I play on the guitar since I was 16, and there's another 5 on the piano. Never really was able to expand beyond that. So it's more to relax and sit at home and
like escape a bit. Yeah.
Exactly. It's more of an escape. Or a lot of times when I'm working late and I want to switch from doing software design, and I want to start thinking of we're writing a script for a commercial that we're doing for a client or something like that. Then I'll go sit on the piano and play for a bit, just anything, just to get my brain to shift from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But what's your favorite genre in general?
Oh, I like all types of music. I think that's what I was saying. I think the best in all of them, whether it's country, R&B, Christian music, tasbihah for those who understand what that is, which is basically praise and worship from the Coptic Church. I enjoy listening to music in general, and there's a time and place for each one of them.
For sure. Let's just go back to like your choice of like career and stuff.
Okay.
So some of the guests, they always talk about how they had to go to their parents and tell them like which career they wanted to choose and stuff. Your parents never had any issues with the arts, for example, or like as Egyptian parents?
As Egyptian parents, yeah, I think it was you can be anything you want to be as long as you're a doctor, engineer, or accountant. No, I was very blessed. My parents were very open-minded. The advice from my father was choose something that you really enjoy because you're going to spend a lot of time. But make sure anything you're going to enjoy, you can praise Christ while doing it, that you don't lose yourself. I think no matter what I've done in life, and I would come back and say any accomplishment to my dad, won a race, got accepted to go to the world championship, any of that, I would come back home and my father, I would tell him, and he's like, Habibi, I love you a lot. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Like, just remember one thing. I'm like, yeah. What has man gained if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Just don't lose your soul. So it didn't matter the field itself.
Mm.
What mattered is where am I going to put my energy, and was I going to be able to find Christ wherever I was going to do it? Was I going to be able to be the salt of the earth and a light? And that was very important. So whether I'm doing it in engineering or in arts, and honestly, it was one of the reasons why at a certain point I took the decision to move away from the performing arts, because I thought the environment, because we didn't have as much as right now, where you have a lot of the Christian media, it was a much more difficult environment. Not that the field itself is bad. I was afraid I wasn't going to be strong enough to hold on to my Christ in that field. Mm. And I'm hoping, that the next generations will have less of that struggle, and we can create the environment for the artistic kids in our community that they can go and be all they can be in the arts for those who choose to be in that.
Do you have an idea of how that can be possible, or like how we can make that change and progress?
Yeah, by creating the right environments. I think right now, whether in the Coptic church or the Christian community as a whole, there are different environments right now where you can go, and whether it's you're a journalist, a broadcaster, a podcaster, you can actually live your dream or be to your full potential without losing Christ. It's not like in other fields, whether it's law, accounting, or engineering, it's not possible. I think it's a challenge everywhere to try to live Christ-like. It's not easy. No, and no one ever said it was going to be easy. But I do think certain fields are more prone because of the environment, right? We cannot compare the Hollywood environment as a whole to, for example, being in an engineering office where you're doing an 8 to 5. It's just not the same.
Yeah, not the same lifestyle, not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Do you ever like think about like what could have happened if you had stayed, or like do you miss performing?
I do. I definitely miss performing. What I've decided, is to do that part as a service. So we do it with the church. We do short films. We did theater, even the stand-up. I used to go and practice in regular stand-up comedy clubs just to get the groove and, learn from other professionals. But the goal was to always perform at the youth gala with the church, at the youth convention, show the youth and myself that it's possible to have clean fun. It's possible to live your dream. And at the same time, I chose engineering as where I'm earning my living.
Okay.
But because I missed it so much, when I started a business, I ended up opening East Sky Production, which is a marketing firm. We do, advertising. So I get to touch a lot of the, maybe not doing films, but when you're doing a commercial, when you're doing, market placements and things like that, you have no choice but to go back into your artistic baggage and surround yourself with other, much better artists than you, so you can give a good, so you're constantly learning, which is something I really enjoy.
How was it to start that business? How did you get the idea? How did it all start?
How did I start the business? So after, being in the corporate world for a little bit of time, I started doing consulting. And I was working with someone who was my senior, my mentor. We would go consult small to mid-sized companies. I realized that no matter how amazing of a consulting job you do, if the company had a learning and training department, they would be able to propagate the consulting we do all the way to the employees. Okay. Versus when they didn't, everything would stay at the C-suite or the VPs. Everybody would nod, everybody would agree, but they wouldn't get the same impact. So I decided to go out, and that's how I started, by creating eSky, which is a online training. Started in like 2010, before a lot of the big names came on board, but we had to fund it.
Okay.
And I had to find ways, and we were not in Silicon Valley. Montreal was definitely not what it is today. There's a lot of startups right now. But in 2010, going to get funding and all that stuff, it was not as obvious if you were not in California, if you were not in Toronto.
Yeah.
So out of here, I had to go look in my arsenal of tools that I picked up throughout the years. What can I do to fund the company? And one thing I knew how to do is be artistic, be creative. And when the opportunity came with a client that we're doing consulting, and he's like, I need to do some marketing for a trade show. I wish I can find an artist who understood engineering so that they can design the video that we're going to put at our booth during the trade show. And I said, well, I could do that. I'm an engineer. I'll go. He's like, okay. So if I give you a budget, can you show it to me? And that was my first go at it. And God opened the door. I'm very thankful to God. I was, many of the opportunities are really thanks to God's grace. I was able to pick on that, started, putting a team together of people, whether abroad, offshore, that can help me do cost-effective editing, with people that I think are very talented, that can be cameramen, camerawomen, light. And, we started doing one commercial after the other, built a bit of a name, and loving it. Can't complain.
That's great. It's actually really nice. Like, what was the biggest lesson learned at the beginning? Like, or biggest obstacle, or?
I think, it's a very good question. And I'm taking my time to think about it, because I would say there's plenty of lessons learned. That's why it's taking a long time to think of it. One of which is trust in God.
Okay.
If you're asking for God's will, so it's one thing if you're trying to live a life where you're trying to control things. I've learned I can't control everything. Trust in God. Do your best. If I do 150%, then I don't have to doubt if things didn't work out because I didn't do my best. So then if things don't work out, I've learned with time that God had a better plan.
Okay.
So I would say when I was younger, I used to be a lot more anxious. Oh, did I mess this up? Oh, I should have taken advantage of this opportunity. Now I've learned I'll just constantly work at 150%. I'm never the smartest guy in the room. Actually, I want to make sure I'm not. It's one thing I've learned. I want to surround myself with people that are better than me. But the one thing for sure, I'm always the hardest working person in the room.
Okay.
I mean, people sometimes don't believe me till they talk to my wife. Sometimes, it's normal. I work 22-hour days. A bit younger, I used to sometimes wake up on Monday and go sleep Friday.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So when we were doing the EMBA, I was full-time employee. I was doing the executive MBA. My father was in the hospital. I was serving with the church. I was going back and forth to Connecticut, back and forth, 1 week yes, 1 week no. My wife was pregnant. We're getting ready. And on the second year of the MBA, my wife gave birth to our first child.
Okay. Okay. There's so much, because it's like what you're describing is how to balance all of these things and also keep your spiritual life like before you, like always present, right? And also, like, how did you
arrive to the point where like how can we have that reminder of, okay, like let's trust God, like he's done it before? Because sometimes we tend to, okay, yeah, we trusted him and it worked, and then we forget the next time, or we put him on the side or lean on our own understanding. So like I don't know.
So first, balance is all about priorities.
Okay.
If you're an entrepreneur, there is no balance. That's a myth. That you will not. I always say, on any given week, I'm upsetting someone. I just have to choose who it is, because you can't just keep up with all of it. So first and foremost, I'm a son of God, I'm a husband, and I'm a father. And my priorities start from there.
Okay.
Everything I do now is with that in mind. Now, when I'm ambitious, I'm trying to build things, but my ambitions when I was younger were more about building for me, for my career. My ambitions now is I want to be a good example for my kids. I want to try to be a good husband. There is no perfection. Like any family, you go through everything, and the roller coaster of life. I want to show my kids that hard work is what you need as the foundation, being ethical, having integrity, pushing hard in everything you do. But that comes with long hours. There is no balance, but it's a balancing act. So when Isaac was born, my firstborn, I made a conscious decision. I'm never working on weekends, ever.
Okay.
So I've lost a contract that could have transformed eSky at a certain point. It was with the Better Business Bureau, because their CEO was not willing to give me the time to take the day off that I had. And he's like, I can't wait, I need it. I'm like, well, I guess we're not doing business. And he pulled back. He said, and it was going to be a very big account. And it's too bad, because work is like a consuming fire. The more wood you throw at it, the bigger the flames, the more wood you need to throw. So it's up to you to decide when and where. So it's a conscious decision. It has cost me a lot, but my weekends, that's how I do it. I'm not saying it's a balance or a fair thing. The weekends belong to my family. I try to balance some days during the week, but I definitely, between having, a full-time job running an engineering service firm, running eSky production, and some of the other business ventures that we do, trying to serve at church and do Sunday school or some of the individual one-on-one services that Abuna asked me to do. There are some weeks tougher than others, but the weekend, my wife, my children take priority.
Okay.
And definitely the service of God.
Okay, a couple of questions.
Sure.
Like, how do you live with the guilt of choosing that person that you have to disappoint? And then
I don't overthink it.
Okay.
Again, if you set your priorities, it's all about a game of priorities.
Okay.
There was an example that at the youth convention, I think it was Amba Musa who showed us, and he would bring a big vase and some tennis balls, some small rocks, and some sand, and a cup of coffee. And he would say, well, what's the best way to fit all those in the vase? Well, you have to start with the big balls, tennis balls first. Let them take their space. Then you start putting the rocks and you shake it and they'll fit in. Then you put the sand. So each one of those is like the priorities you choose. So you start with your priorities, you fit those in first.
Okay.
And in the process, people will be upset. I've had family members that got upset. But my priority was my immediate family, my wife, my kids, my parents, to whom I owe everything. And then there's my service to the church. So, even Christ, when he asked the disciples, he said, go to Jerusalem, Samaria, and then the rest of the world. You got to take care of Jerusalem. And already life is not perfect and you cannot plan all the things that are coming your way. So there's already going to be difficulties, right? Whether it's the difficulties like regular stuff in a regular relationship, right? Which requires work between a husband and a wife, or the challenges of raising Christian kids in a world that has become indifferent to Christian values. There's a constant, I'll call it again, balancing act.
Okay. I used to always separate like my spiritual life from like work life, school life, whatever, because I don't know why in my head it was always like, okay, there's work, and then there's church, and then and it hit me that like that spiritual life is like this I don't know, like layer or this thing hovering over all these areas in my life. It's actually it's present, like it has to be present, like it guides me in not only in that, I guess, balancing act, but like also in the decisions like you have to make, in the personality that you are too, like what kind of person you're going to be in every area. Like you can't just be one different person like work and be someone else completely at church. Like there's like you have to imitate Christ, wherever you go. I don't know, like what you're describing makes me like, it inspires me to like, I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I mean? Or
yeah, look, I think one thing as we mature and get older, there's a discernment act.
Okay.
There's emotional intelligence of how you can judge the setting in which you're in. Being Christ-like doesn't mean offending people either. Christ was gentle.
Yeah.
But my values are that of a Christian man and a Christian father, and I am who I am everywhere I am. I don't change. And if the workplace I'm in doesn't like that, then maybe it's time for me to leave. If the world doesn't like, no one has ever said it would be easy. He said it is the narrow way. But if we are gentle and use discernment, then I don't see why not we can't be a light in our workplace without being preachy, because there's time and place for everything. We can't go imposing, right? My job at work is not to be a preacher. I get hired, I get paid because, like a good steward, right? The Bible speaks of the good steward. He gave the man the talents so that he can go invest it for him. He was angry when the guy didn't. He goes, you should have told me. I would have given my money to the bankers. It would have been better. So we're hired to do a job. If while doing it, being ourselves, being our own person, and trying to reflect the image of Christ, which is, by the way, hard, right? Like I hope nobody puts any human on a pedestal. I definitely don't want to be put on a pedestal because, we'll fall regularly. But at least the attempt is to be Christ-like, sometimes without even opening your word about Christ. And then he says, our sweet aroma, right?
Yeah.
And an aroma is something you feel and you're like, something's different. I can't put my finger on it. Something's different. And they will know who you are because of your deeds, because of your behaviors.
Okay. But like how to have that aroma and also like knowing that we might fall, like, because it's a bit hard. Like if you make a mistake, whatever, you lose your temper, for example, or it will make them question like you as a Christian too. Like,
yeah, I mean, one, don't take ourselves too seriously. Okay. And it will happen that we fall. We are all human. That's why I said, let's not put ourselves on,
on pedestal.
We shouldn't put any human on a pedestal.
Okay.
Because we are all under sin.
Yeah.
So even Elijah was, under the pains just like us.
Yeah.
So that's a man that prayed to God and asked for fire to come from heaven. And it did. And a few weeks later, he was afraid of Jezebel. So how is it the man of God can all of a sudden act and go in hiding and tell him, oh Lord, they have killed all your prophets and all I'm left? Come on, Elijah, you spoke to God. You prayed for rain and it came. You prayed for fire and it came. Where are you? And I think a big part of it is we're human. So I think it should be a rule. We shouldn't put any man on a pedestal, and we shouldn't put ourselves. We should just try to act and constantly bring ourselves and practice self-control.
Okay.
I mean, if I could add to that, just to complement the question a bit, is I think a big problem with society today is everybody wants to just live based on their feelings.
True.
Well, I'm sorry, if I wake up in the morning and I'm not feeling to be a dad, it doesn't stop me from acting like a father.
Right.
I've got people responsible. So what makes a difference between people is, when I was an athlete, you wake up in the morning, some days you don't feel like training. You want to make it to the top of your sport. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. You're there to push. So if we're constantly just relying on feelings, well, feelings lie. That's why sometimes the exact same person that we fall madly in love with, a few weeks later, oh, I don't feel it anymore, right? There's more to life than just feelings. We can't just be living based on feelings.
I just want to go back to Iskai.
Sure.
Because why did you call it Iskai?
I believe in training.
Okay.
I believe that one of the ways we could change the world, if you want to change someone's status, educate them better. So education itself is empowering.
Yeah.
If you want to grow yourself, you invest in yourself, and people say the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that the company eventually will be able to make a dent in the world. Part of our philanthropic agenda is to be able to make education electronically available for those who can afford it.
Okay.
And reach the four corners, because that's how you can get people out of poverty. I believe, can we eliminate poverty in the world? I don't know if we can ever eliminate it. But the best chance at doing that is educating people. And now that we've got electronics, the internet, if we can get that in the hands of people that need it, we can actually make a change. I believe, and I say it to my team all the time, I think there are single people that can change the world. And every one of us, if they put their mind and do even a single drop, could make a change.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Mother Teresa was one. Father Andre was one. If you look at the worldly examples, Elon Musk is one, right? And he's definitely changed the way we all look at things. So I would love that one day we're able to, make a small dent in poverty in the world by educating people.
No, I truly believe that. For my parents, for example, education is everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to them one day and saying that I wanted to drop out of school and just saying whatever.
Okay.
And for them, it was as if I had committed a crime. It was unacceptable. And looking back now, yeah, it's the most powerful tool we have, actually. And to not only educate ourselves and gain knowledge, but also to delegate that to other people so that, it's a give and take kind of thing. We all benefit from learning.
Absolutely.
And not just keeping that information to us, for example, or.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how the world is going to look like, and I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know if the traditional academia and the certifications that we have and colleges are the answer. But education in general, the thirst and hunger for learning.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you right before we start this interview, one of the best software developers that he would learn, not through engineering school or anything else, competes with everyone, and he learned it from YouTube at the age of 65. Right?
Yeah.
So it's never too late. And if you're hungry to go learn, and that goes religiously, whether it's like learning the Bible or learning a skill, learning how to sell. I heard it's always been said, if you learn how to sell, you'll never go hungry a day in your life. So
okay, yeah. It's true.
There's some advice I can give people. You're constantly selling. You're selling yourself. You're branding yourself. You're selling your trade. You're selling your business. So if you know how to sell, you'll never go hungry.
But do people need to have like this passion for what they do, or a certain motivation? Like I'm thinking of the person you just mentioned who learned software like at 65, right? Programming. But like he learned it because he loves it, or he just tried it and then like, do we really need to always follow our passions and like so that we can succeed in what we're doing, or not necessarily?
Look, I think it's definitely easier.
Okay.
So, when a lot of the younger guys ask me, oh, where do you get the energy to work all these long hours? I'm like, well, I love what I do. Sometimes I don't feel the time. Sometimes my wife comes down at 7 a.m. and I didn't realize at 7 I was working all night. You do that. You cannot do that unless you really love what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does help. But does that mean every single person is going to find their passion? And if they don't find their passion, they go, look, no. You got to earn a living. Yeah. That's where the balancing act comes in. What if what you're passionate with, there is no money in it? Okay. So you either find a way to make money and, or find a way to go earn a living by doing a trade while you're trying to find a way to hone that craft that will eventually try to make you money. You constantly have to try to figure a way to improve yourself. And I don't think everyone. I think I was very fortunate and very blessed that God gave me some of these talents that I was able to do in multiple venues and different things, and I had the passion.
So you mentioned that like you've made some decisions when you had your firstborn regarding work and life balance. So that reminds me of boundaries.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes as Christians we have difficulties like understanding boundaries because there's guilt in that priority, setting. So what are healthy boundaries that we can adopt, like as Christians, especially with, in regards to like our family life and work, and so that we can be our best selves. Because especially when you're saying like right now, like you work long hours, but you're so energetic at the same time. And I'm thinking like, how do you take care of your health as well? Like, how do you keep going? Like,
so it depends on where do you see yourself going? You don't do that without trying to do some sort of planning.
Okay.
Now you can't plan everything, and God definitely puts different people in your path. But I would say the most important part is being able to focus on the areas that you think you have a bit of control on. So you got to understand what you have control over and what you don't. Work on what you have control over. Now, setting boundaries, it depends. When I was on my own, it's very different than when I'm married, or when I was engaged, or when I was married, and when I have a family. So the boundaries, one of them, I have to have the conversation with my spouse, and understand from her, what we're willing to do together as a couple. Set rules of engagement. On my own, my boundaries were, funny, it's going to sound cheesy, but what would Jesus do? Like, does that fall within this? Anything else? Everything else is lawful, just not everything is edifying. It changes when you get into a relationship, because then it's not just about you. Is, okay, are we willing as a couple to do this? Oh, I love doing this a lot. This is how I'm made. Some things are also inert in you. I'm more of a night owl. It took some adjustment as a couple. My creativity is from 11 to 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when I'll come up with a script. That's when I'll write a narration. This is when I'm going to come up with crazy ideas for a play for the church, or we'll come up with, this is my creative time. That's when I'm alone. So, at the beginning, it took some adjustment for sure. And we find compromises and ways to make sure, well, if I'm going to, I'll loosely use the term, make us suffer in that direction, because that definitely puts a burden on the relationship. This put a burden on the family. Well, how else am I going to make it work out? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. Okay, that's cool. No, because as you were, go ahead.
I mean, I'll tell you something, because you talked about guilt. One thing, and I don't know if it's because my parents ingrained in me that guilt, but the one thing my father used to always talk about, the verse or the parable of the talents. And, oh, good and faithful servant, you were faithful with a little, I'll trust you with much more. And I was always told, the more God gave you, the more you're going to get judged on it. So I always felt a sense of guilt because, well, okay, I was born as a Christian. There was, certain talents that were given. So what will happen the day I stand in front of my Creator? How am I going to talk about this? Will I be able to say that I've done well with the things that were given to me? So that was kind of saying, because then it says, to those who have, more will be given, and those who don't, even what they don't have will be taken away.
Okay. No, because you also mentioned how you get your ideas like late at night on your own. Is it always like that, or do you seek inspiration other ways, or?
No, I mean, at a certain point, the creative process, this is my peak, and which I got used to working on. But you also surround yourself with people that are better than you, with which, you build trust, and you're able to bounce ideas off them. And the creative process is an iterative process. You bounce an idea with someone, they give you a little bit, you take that little bit that changed, you bounce it with someone else, you sit with yourself, you go walk in nature, you have your alone time, your quiet time, till all of a sudden an idea kind of transforms and becomes its own thing.
Okay. Any books that
Books
you've read that
I like?
Yeah, or
management books, or just in general?
That you would you would recommend to other people, like whether artists or engineer or management.
There's a great book. Anyone that is a leader, whether it's in a non-profit or for profit, or even at a service. It's a book called Good to Great. I think Good to Great is one of the best well-written books. I think it talks about the hedgehog concept, and that's the crossing from where you are, the expertise, what you're good at, what you can actually sell as an economic value, and et cetera. And he explains it very well. But it also talks about having the right people on the bus, and the people that have the right DNA, that they wake up in the morning wanting to make a difference.
Okay.
So putting the right people in the bus to achieve, it's very well written. I highly recommend it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what's your favorite thing about what you do and your least favorite thing?
I could start with the least favorite thing.
Okay.
I hate doing paperwork.
It's
all the accounting. Thank God we have good accountants, and the financials. I'm, definitely engineer. I'm good with numbers, but that part is not the favorite part to do. Okay.
Does it like remove the creativity away? Like, do you feel like it's draining sometimes, or?
I mean, in business, you definitely need it.
Mm.
And you're in business to be profitable, right? You're not in business for service. You're in business to be profitable. That's the whole point of an incorporation, to generate profit. So you need to understand your numbers. You need to understand your cost of acquisition, your cost of labor. You need to understand your profit margins. You need to understand the model that you want to operate in to be good. The day-to-day of doing it is a different story. These are the type of things I like to oversee, but kind of not outsource, but make sure someone else is doing it.
Okay.
They're also too routine. I can't do the same thing over and over. The things that I enjoy are way too much. That's why I'm so this will take a life of its own. I would say first and foremost, it's dealing with people. I enjoy knowing, I definitely enjoy mentoring and seeing some of the, the younger people find their way, making people reach their full potential. I also, by doing that, a lot of times when you're trying to mentor someone, you end up learning. A lot of times I find myself, I'm saying something out loud and it's so in time for my life. So God kind of sets it up this way.
True.
So the people side of it, I enjoy tremendously. I love to create. Like, to me, going to work is like playing Lego. Whether I'm building an operation, with every side of the operation, the financial side, the operations, the project management, the PMO, all of that. Or when you're building a business, it's you're putting all these Lego pieces with each other, and you got this vision of how you're creating something different. You can take something that looks similar to something else, but you're just doing this small little thing and you make it different. So to me, it's a blast.
I love like what you're describing because it's exactly what I go through when I create and do stuff. I don't get to do it at work as much as I want, but on the side, like for my projects, so I totally like get it.
Yeah, it's the creative process is just a fun process.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay. Is there anything you would change or do differently, like in your journey or like everything you've done so far? We hope you liked this episode, and if you did, please write a comment, send us your feedback, share it, and follow the About Us podcast on Instagram and follow our guests. Thank you so much for your support, and see you next time.